Oh dear.
What's that?
Can I help you?
No.
Today is the last day of term, but Lydia is home. She's been having some health problems the last few weeks, and we still haven't quite gotten to the bottom of it yet, but yeah. Did get some antibiotics yesterday, so hopefully that will clear it up.
Mom, the doggy, Mom.
What?
Pancakes.
Making pancakes? Pikelets.
Yes.
Hi, so I'm just going to share a few lessons that I've been learning from the last few weeks. So for the last few weeks, Lydia was having some health problems with her stomach. And it was one of those things where you kind of, the doctor says it's one thing, and then, then it's another thing, and then it turns out to be something else. So yeah, that's what the last few weeks have been like. She didn't go to school very much, and when she did go, it was often only for a few hours, or she, if she was there a whole day, then she was very tired. But it was the kind of thing where you just think she was better, and then it would get worse again. So it was kind of like up and down all the time. I think she is finally over it now, but who knows, that can always change. So like first the doctor thought it was kidney stones. She was having a lot of pain on her left side, and then later on we went to ED and they thought it was constipation, so we got medicine for that. And then finally we found out she had an infection, like from a urine sample, and so she went on antibiotics, and that's what seems to have cleared it up. But one thing I was reminded of is that we're not in control. So last term, Lydia got sick a lot, like the end of last year, and it just seemed like every second week she was sick with, like a cold and feeling tired, a runny nose, and maybe she had a fever. And so this term I really tried hard to keep her healthy because, I wanted to be healthy anyway, but when she needs to stay at home, then I also can't do the things I would usually do as well. So I've tried to keep her healthy. I've tried to do what I can do. She just finished, or just about finished, a bottle of multivitamins. So I was giving her that every day. I was giving her vitamin C every day. And for like the first 6 weeks of term, she was really healthy. And then she gets different problems. So she didn't get, a cold or anything like that. But then she's had, she got like an infection. And so it just reminds me that, we can do the best we can do. But at the end of the day, our health or whatever else is not in our hands, it is in God's hands. And so we can do the best we can, but we're still not in control. So we have to, trust God to do what is best for us. And then the second one, I read a story. So after we'd been up, one day we were up at ED, just about the whole day. And that's when they thought it was constipation. And so the next day Lydia was home again, and we just didn't know how long it was going to go on for. And so there were 2 weeks of school left then. And so usually I teach the Bible at school about 3 times a week. And so because Lydia was so up and down, it was really hard to try to plan to do that. And so I asked school if I could just have the last 2 weeks off, if they could organise somebody else to do my job so that I could just focus on Lydia, and so it wouldn't be so stressful in the mornings. And so I asked them that, and it was on a Tuesday, so I also needed to work out a reliever for preschool, because usually I do preschool at our school on Wednesday mornings. And so I couldn't do the things I usually did. But that night I read my children a story, and whenever I can't do the things that I usually do, then I usually feel just a little bit bad, because you can't do what you're committed to doing, because your family comes first. But I read this story to my children, and so a while back I was reading them this every day, and then but we're not reading it every day anymore. But I thought I would just do this one for a change, and I just picked it up to a random story. It wasn't where we're up to, but I started reading it, and it was such a helpful story for me. So it's called The Heavy Burden Made Light. A Christian mother named Mrs. Norton had a little daughter born to her. Mrs. N already had 3 sons, and she'd long desired to have a daughter, and it was a day of gladness, not only to the mother but to all the family when this little girl was born. Her mother nursed her with the greatest interest and affection. For a while, everything went on pleasantly in this family. But then the mother found out that something was not right with her child, and so the doctor came and examined the child and found out that the child was, I guess, severely handicapped. The doctor says she has no mind, so I guess that means handicapped, and the doctor actually said she's an idiot, so I guess that's where the word idiot came from. So this is a very old story, but it sounds wrong to call a baby that. But anyway, it says the mother was very sad. It says how heavy a burden of sorrow was thus fastened upon her. At first she came near sinking under the weight of this great affliction. But soon she got over this, and notwithstanding the trouble thus brought upon her, she always had a calm, cheerful, happy look. This child proved a blessing to her and to the rest of the family. One day a friend said to her, "Mrs. Norton, how is it possible for you to be so happy and cheerful when you have such a heavy burden of sorrow to bear? Will you please tell me the secret of it?" "That I will gladly do," said Mrs. Norton. "This is the greatest affliction I've ever had to bear. At first I thought it would break my heart. I never expected to have one happy feeling as long as I lived. But as I woke from sleep one morning, soon after this trouble came upon me, I heard sounding in my ears, as a voice from heaven, the words which Pharaoh's daughter spoke to the mother of Moses, when she put in her care the child which had been taken from the ark of bulrushes, and said, 'Take this child and nurse it for me, and I will give thee thy wages.' I knew it was my Father in heaven who was speaking those precious words to me, and it made a wonderful change in my thoughts and feelings towards my poor child. It lightened my burden and gave me all the help I have needed in bearing it. Since then I've never felt sad or sorrowful about this matter. I say to myself that the child is God's. He knows what is best for us. All I have to do is nurse it well. And the thought that I'm doing this for God makes it a pleasure and delight to me. That is the secret of my being so cheerful and happy." So that was a real encouragement to me. It just felt so personal because, of Lydia. And also that verse was a verse that helped me when I first started being Lydia's teacher at school, like during the whole COVID thing. That was a verse that kind of confirmed to me that I was doing the right thing and like looking after her at school. But yeah, whatever trials you have, whatever jobs God has given to you that might be difficult, whatever it is, if we do whatever we have for God, God can lighten our burden, and we can be cheerful no matter how hard it is. So most of us don't have children that are handicapped, but we all have our own troubles. So we can, have our burdens lightened. And another time, because I don't like uncertainty, so with Lydia being kind of sick, and then you thought she was better, and then, and not even knowing what it was, like, I remember going outside on the deck having a cup of tea, and I had this devotional in my hand by Oswald Chambers, and so I was thinking, I was struggling with the uncertainty, and the devotion I opened it up to was all about uncertainty, the graciousness of uncertainty. I so dislike uncertainty, but I might have even shared it before once because I have read it before, but it says, "Certainty is the mark of the common sense life. Gracious uncertainty is the mark of the spiritual life. To be certain of God means that we are uncertain in all our ways. We do not know what a day may bring forth. This is generally said with a sigh of sadness. It should be rather an expression of breathless expectation. We are uncertain of the next step, but we are certain of God. Immediately we abandon to God and do the duty that lies nearest. He packs our life with surprises all the time. When we become advocates of a creed, something dies. We do not believe God, we only believe our belief about him. Jesus said, except you become as little children. Spiritual life is the life of a child. We are not uncertain of God, but uncertain of what he's going to do next. If we are only certain in our beliefs, we get dignified and severe and have the ban of finality about our views. But when we are rightly related to God, life is full of spontaneous, joyful uncertainty and expectancy. Believe also in me, said Jesus, not believe certain things about me. Leave the whole thing to him. It is gloriously uncertain how he will come in, but he will come. Remain loyal to him. So although uncertainty is not a nice thing, it can be a good thing too, because we just have to trust in God. And another one was about rest. So I find it hard to rest, but I read a little devotional had some of the verses from the Bible about how when God finished his work of creation on the seventh day, he rested from all of his work. And he blessed the seventh day and called it holy. It was a day that he rested from all this work of creation. And then another verse says, on the seventh day he stopped working and was refreshed. And it just really struck me that even God, when he made all the world, he had a day to take a break. And God doesn't even need a break, but he rested. And yet sometimes to us rest can feel like a waste of time. It can feel like, we're not doing anything. But he rested for one day after 6 days of making the world. So when we're working hard and being busy, it's good to have rest. Rest can be a very good thing. And it's not a waste of time, but we rest so that we can keep going. Some of the verses I wrote down: the Lord is my shepherd, I have all that I need. He lets me rest in green meadows. He leads me beside peaceful streams. He renews my strength. He guides me along right paths, bringing honor to his name. And then a quote from the devotional that I was reading said, work is good, but it must be balanced by regular rest and attention to the health of your soul. Otherwise, you miss the divine moments God sends your way. Make sure to carve out regular times for worship and spiritual refreshment. So, when we are hardworking people, then we don't need to feel bad for taking time to rest and be refreshed. And the last one, so Lydia ended up getting a 3-day dose of antibiotics. And I just thought, as I was looking at that bottle, you really need faith to take medicine, because when you look at that bottle, you can't see how it's going to help you. It's just like a drink or a liquid. But, I knew that antibiotics is powerful and that it can make a huge difference, just like other medicine. But you really just take it by faith, trusting what you can't see, trusting that it will make a difference, that it will help, that it will clear up the infection. But that's really like, the word of God or the promises of God. We have to have faith and believe what we cannot see. So like when we believe a promise in the Bible, we can't always see it. We may not be able to see how, all things work together for good. We may not see how, like we may believe that God will answer our prayer, but we don't see that yet. So when we trust God's promises, it's like taking antibiotics. We have to believe that God's promises are powerful and true, and we can think back to times when God has, answered our prayers or kept his promises. Because if you think of antibiotics, you think, last time I took it, it helped, or somebody else took it and they said it helped. So just as you have faith when you take a medicine or an antibiotic, we need to have faith when we trust trust in God's promises, because we can't see it, we have to believe it. So I think those were 5 of the things that were helpful to me, and I hope that something in them is a blessing and a help to you as well.